ערב טוב, good evening. שמחת בחגיך, אתה ובנך ובתך, ועבדיך ואמתיך, והלוי והגר והיתום והאלמנה, אשר בשעריך. 7 ימים תחוג לאדוני אלוהיך, במקום אשר יבחר אדוני, כי יברכך אדוני אלוהיך בכל תבואתך ובכל מעשה ידיך, והיית אך שמח ושמחת בחגיך, 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 והיית אך שמח. Join me, צטרפו אליי. ושמחת בחגיך, והיית אך שמח 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 ושמחת בחגיך, והיית אך שמח. חג שמח לכולם, או כמעט חג שמח לכולם.
Thank you, Boaz Dorot, one of our young, talented Israel Movement for Progressive Judaism, Kol and Neshama singers. It's great to have you here. Shalom to everyone from Israel and around the world. My name is David Bernstein. I'm Deputy Director of the Israel Reform Movement. And it's a pleasure to have you all here with us in our virtual Sukkah, together with all of our partners from Artsenu, from the URJ and Artsa, from the World Union for Progressive Judaism, and of course from the IMPJ itself, from our communities and congregations. And in the course of the evening, you'll meet a lot of our guests of our Ushpizin. But first of all, I want to introduce Lena Zilberman-Soloway. Lena is a student at Hebrew Union College and is a board member of our congregation in Mivaseret, Kamatz. So Lena also is special in this program because she actually helped organize the whole program. So Lena, thank you, and please. unmute yourself.
Yeah. Shalom, everyone. My name is Lana. It's wonderful to see so many people from around the world in here. So first of all, I already see that you started to write your names and locations, which is wonderful. We'll also suggest if you can do that on the name next to your picture. That will help us during later stages of this evening. So if your name stated as someone else, please make sure that your personal name, and you can add location when you rename it. Welcome to our Sukkah. It is very, very wonderful to celebrate together the special holiday of Sukkot, which is both universal, since at the end of it, we're going to all pray for rain that all of us are so much in need for. But on the other hand, it's also very particular and very Jewish and very unique for our own people. And actually, there's no other people that I know that instead of building a castle or a victory gate, is building a sukkah, which is something so unstable in order to celebrate that joyful event. And in the book of Deuteronomy, we learn about the great joy of this special holiday. It's actually a double joy. And one of the explanations is the double joy for the two mitzvahs that we have for this holiday. One is the mitzvah of the 4 species, Arbat Minim, and the other one is about sitting in the sukkah. And therefore, we're happy that everyone are sitting in our virtual sukkah together, although it's one day earlier than the actual holiday. So tonight, or this afternoon, depends where you are in the world, we're going to try to combine all the symbols of the holiday in one executive hour. We're going to start with sitting in the sukkah and with the tradition of the Ushpizin. Ushpizin, some will say it's in Greek and others will say it's in Aramaic. We already know this word from the Talmud. But in the Talmud, it doesn't talk about being a guest in a sukkah. This is a later interpretation that comes on into our tradition. And today we use this word of the Ushpizin, of the guest, as having guests in our sukkah. And traditionally, the Holy Zohar is teaching us about 7 special guests that are coming into our sukkah. We have 1 guest for each of the days. And traditionally, we talk about Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and Joseph and Moses and Aaron and David. And later on, we also added the women, whether it's being Sarah or Rachel or Miriam or Abigail or Ruth and Esther and so on. And today we're going to have all the 7 Ushpizin together at the same night, in the same afternoon. And we're going to meet them one by one as we follow along. And in addition to that, before David will call out our first Ushpizin, our first guest in our virtual sukkah, I'll say that we will also add the blessings that we tend to say over several days, or at least the evening of the Sukkot, traditionally tomorrow. But we will bless the wine, and we will bless the 4 species, and we will bless Shechianu for all of us being here together. And we'll also add a special blessing because we're in a special year, and that's the year of the Shemitah. So all of that is awaiting for us, starting right now. And David, I pass it on to you to invite our first Ushpizin.
Thank you. First of all, everyone here in this room and everyone on Facebook throughout the world are Ushpizin, are our special guests. But we have a special guest here who I don't think anyone in this group needs an introduction about. And we're very excited that he's with us. He's an incredible person. I now call on member of Knesset, Rabbi Gilad Kariv, to share a few words to us as our first Ushpizin. Gilad, please.
Shalom, Shana Tova, dear friends, colleagues, and partners from Israel and around the world. It's wonderful to be here with you in this virtual Sukkah of the Israeli movement, together with our partnering organizations around the world. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you a few greetings and thoughts. I want first to start by greeting my good friend and partner for many years, Anna Kislansky, that was officially elected to lead our movement, the IMPJ, and to greet the IMPJ board for making the right decision after a very serious and thoughtful process in the IMPJ board. I know that Anna will maintain and strengthen all the important achievements that we achieved together in the last decade, and even more important, will bring new ideas, new visions, and new ways to lead our movement. I'm sure that the chair of the IMPJ board will add more to my greetings, but those are definitely wonderful news to start the year with. And I will also greet my friend, partner, colleague, Oli Erez Lachovsky, for being elected to lead the Israel Religious Action Center as its director. I think that we have today two super women, super reform women that are leading our movement and its institutions. We have another leading and wonderful rabbi that is leading Maram, and we have another great friend, Rabbi Nami Kelman, who is leading the HUC. So this is definitely the era of the Ushpizot and not the Ushpizin for the Israel Reform Movement, and those are wonderful news. I want to share with you that we continue to work hard, the movement and its leadership and myself, to make sure that our presence, our unprecedented presence in the Israeli political circles will enable us to achieve important and historic achievements. In the short term, we are working very hard in order to secure two moves. One is to renew the commitment of the Israeli government to the Kotel agreement. And the second, which is not less important, in a way even more important, is to make sure that for the first time, the Israeli government is meeting its commitment to support the work of the non-Orthodox movements and our partnering organizations in the Jewish pluralistic scene here in Israel, to support our work on, I don't want to say on an equal base immediately, but definitely on a strategic and serious manner. And we are working very hard in order to make sure that this support and commitment of the Israeli government will be done through the Ministry of Diaspora Affairs. So it will include not only the IMPJ, but also our partnering organizations around the world. And in that regard, although always political and governmental processes take time, the coming few months are quite critical for the two important tasks, the Kotel agreement and the formal and well-established support for our efforts in Israel around the world. In a more longer term, together again with the Israeli movement, with our worldwide partners, and with the Masoreti conservative movement, we need also to start and to design the way we want to establish the relations, the formal relations between our movements and our communities with the Israeli government. I'm not suggesting that we will be able to gain whatever we want to gain. This is a complicated Israeli government with a very thin majority. It's not a secret that the current government includes also more conservative parties, Orthodox, modern Orthodox parties, and we have a very long journey ahead of us. But I think this is definitely opportunity for us to occupy ourselves in a serious process of at least being able to say what we want to achieve in a longer term. and now we translate the values that we always advocated for, freedom of religion, religious pluralism, how we translate them to concrete public and governmental policies, and if not now, אם לא עכשיו אז מתי, this is definitely the most welcoming Israeli government in many years to our status in Israel and around the world, and we need to use it in a strategic manner and wisely. My last comment in that regard, besides wishing you all the גמר טוב ופתקה טובה וחג שמח, is to suggest that the fact that we are involved today in the Israeli political scene in an unprecedented way doesn't mean that we can put aside our public global efforts. On the contrary, I think that in the coming weeks and months, together with all of you and the leadership of our communities and movements around the world, we will have to think how we create a global Jewish progressive campaign that pushes the Israeli government, because there is a potential, to take the right decisions. And we are used to assemble our forces when we meet a crisis, like with the conversion legislation in the past. We need also to train ourselves how to collect our forces in a moment of potential and a moment of opportunity, and this is the current situation. And I call all of us to be engaged through the national institutions, through the relations with the embassies and other official representatives of the Israeli government, how we create with the conservative movements and other partners a global campaign to push the current government to embrace the concept of religious pluralism. I want to thank you all for your friendship and partnership with the IMPJ, to encourage you, all of you, to continue to support the leadership of the IMPJ. It's not easy to be a leader of the reform movement here in Israel, and Yair and Anna and all the rabbis and all the community leaders need this ongoing dialogue and your support. So Shana Tova and Pitka Tova and good health, and thank you, all of you, for your personal messages during the days I dealt with a COVID situation. I wish you all Shana Shel Refuah Shlema, Chaim V'Shalom. Thank you, dear friends.
Thank you, Gilad. And Gilad already introduced Anna as Superwoman. And I'll just add, it's my honor to introduce Anna Koslansky, who just about 2 weeks ago formally became the Director General of the IMPJ. We've for years talked to all of you about how over the past decade, we've more than doubled our congregational presence in Israel and increased our foothold on Israel in so many areas. Anna is the person who carried out that process. Anna, thank you.
תודה רבה, David and Gilad. It's a pleasure to see everybody. And I want to start with a message that, on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we pray together, and all the deeds will be blessed, and all the creatures will bow down before you, and all will form one partnership, Agudah Achat, to do your will with a full heart. So already in these prayers during the high holidays, we wish to be connected and linked to all creatures of the world. And on Sukkot, we continue with this commandment through the mitzvah of Arbaat Aminim, the 4 species. We take the lulav, the willow, the myrtle, and the etrog, and shake them together according to the commandment Netilat HaLulav, as written in the Torah in the book of Leviticus. And the Midrash Vayikra Rabbah indicates that the 4 species represent 4 different types of the people of Israel. So God, according to the Midrash, says that we unite all the species together so that they may atone for one another. And I believe that we, the Reform movement in Israel, have a role in the Israeli society to take the four species, each of which, according to the Midrash, represents a different aspect of Israeli society, and to connect them as one, not only in order for them to atone for one another through their complementary qualities, but in order for them to enjoy each other's qualities. So the year 5872 began in our movement with a theme of connections. And we reconnected after a year of online prayers from afar. And finally, we were able to meet in person and had a lot of events and services that allowed thousands of Israelis to connect in the various synagogues and IMPJ institutions. And I want to highlight two very special minyanim that we held. One was the Yom Kippur minyan for young adults that's called Mekadshim et Hazman, sanctifying time. And in one fellowship, we united young adults who came from all over the country and from various sectors of Israeli society to experience a significant Yom Kippur with a variety of learning and prayer styles in an innovating and an inspiring way. So that was one very special minyan. And another minyan was our pre-IDF Mechina Young Leadership Program, both in Jaffa and Holon, for the first time brought together their 86 high school graduates from all over Israel and even a few from North America. And they joined together for meaningful Yom Kippur services, ending with a moving prayer of Ne'ilah in the Mishkenot Ruth Daniel community in Jaffa. So our commitment to supporting all sectors of Israeli society also led us to establish in the beginning of this Jewish year, with the support of the Israeli Ministry of Welfare, a unique project called Bait B'Kehila, a home in the community. Bait B'Kehila is an inclusive housing project for people with disabilities anchored in the congregational life of Yozma community in Modi'in. And as this pilot project develops, we plan throughout this coming years to expand this model to additional locations in Israel. And I think that the integration of the week in the Israeli society is one of our responsibilities. And this year too, Keren Bechavod, IMPJ Center for Social Responsibility, is providing for the poor, Hager, Hayatom, Ha'almana, through food packages for Rosh Hashanah, as well as activating empowerment groups for underprivileged women from various sectors of Israeli society. So, and that's just three highlights of the things that are occurring in the beginning of this new year. And tomorrow, on the eve of Sukkot, we will gather in our congregations and in our Sukkot Shalom, the Sukkah of peace. We will shake the four species to the directions of the four winds of heaven and bless the connections between all of us, Klal Israel. Chag Sameach.
Thank you so much, dear Anna and MK Gilad Kariv. And we will be back to the species shortly, but just to get us started right with the blessings before I'll invite our next speaker, I would like to bless together for us sitting in this sukkah, so you can join me from your homes. ברוך אתה, אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו ליישב בסוכה. And from here, it is my great pleasure to invite Rabbi Benjamin Minich, who is also an outstanding musician, who will lead us in singing Psalm Kav Zayin 27 from Tehillim. Bevakasha.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm the one who's still thrilled to host the Mechinot from Jaffa and Holon. You can even hear it from my voice. אחת שאלתי מת אדוני אותה אבקש. אחת שאלתי מת אדוני אותה אבקש. שבתי בבית אדוני כל ימי חיי. לחזות בנועם בנועם אדוני ולבקר בהיכלו. לחזות בנועם בנועם אדוני ולבקר בהיכלו. אחת שאלתי מת אדוני אותה אבקש. אחת שאלתי מת אדוני אותה אבקש. שבתי בבית אדוני כל ימי חיי. לחזות בנועם בנועם אדוני ולבקר בהיכלו. לחזות בנועם בנועם אדוני ולבקר בהיכלו.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Benny. I'd like to now introduce our third Ushpiza, I guess, or from our Ushpizot, as Gilad said, our good friend and our partner, Rabbi Leah Molstein, who is the chairperson of Artsenu, the network of Reform Zionist movements throughout the world. Leah.
Thank you so much for welcoming me into this beautiful Sukkah. Sukkot is the season of building. As we build our Sukkot, we are reminded that there is still work for us to do to help realize a world of blessing and peace. As Zionists, we know that the dreams of the founders of the State of Israel have only partly been realized. Alongside our siblings in Israel, let us be builders, not just dreamers, and work toward a State of Israel that embraces democratic values in Judaism in all of its forms, as well as protecting the rights of its minorities. But this is also the season of thanksgiving, of giving thanks for the gifts of the land, for gifts yet to come. And so we raise our cup of wine in gratitude for the gifts of the land of Israel and for the blessing of being able to celebrate this evening together with the Israeli Reform Movement, bringing us together from so many lands of the world. Let us give thanks for the impressive growth of the Reform Movement in Israel, for the incredible work done by rabbis, congregations, and the movement, truly realizing the prophetic vision, Ki mitzion teitzei Torah, for out of Zion goes forth such wealth of Reform teaching, from music to Torah commentary to liturgy and so much more. So as we enter Zman Simchatenu, the season of rejoicing, let us say together, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen, l'chaim.
L'chaim, thank you, Leah. And now I call upon another one of our really incredible friends, good friends, and partner, the president of the World Union of Progressive Judaism, Rabbi Sergio Bergman, who is our next, this time, Ushpizim. Sergio.
תודה, David. שנה טובה, חתימה טובה, and now Chag Sameach. We are so really glad to be part of this gathering. And like you say, and also Gilad said, also we have our super women. We are here together with Carol Sterling, our chairwoman, and we are so really privileged to be part of this Sukkah. This is the Israeli worldwide Sukkah, and we are really so thank you that the IMPJ invite us to be part of this opportunity, and very, very special. I want to thank you, David and Anna, especially, and Atzlacha Rabba Anna, in the new challenge. We are all with you to support you in this new stage, and to bless with the 4 species, with the lulav, like our rabbis teach us that the 4 species also represent the 4 corners of the world. And now we are all together. And then on Yom Sheni Babokar, that is Tuesday morning, when we take the lulav, we will pray to be one people, one extended family around the world. We are the Reform movement, and we are so proud and so glad to make our blessing like one family. Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam Asher Kitshanu B'mitzvotav V'tzivanu Al Netilat Lulav. Our praise to you, Adonai, sovereign of all, who allowed us with mitzvot, commanding us to make and to take up the lulav. Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi Sergio. I now have the very, very special privilege of calling on another partner and friend, someone who actually I think I've personally known for at least 45 years, from camp, going way back to Camp Swig, Rabbi Rick Jacobs, president of the Union of Reform Judaism, of the head of the North American Reform Movement. Rick, you're somewhere here, I think.
Thank you, David. And what a pleasure to be with everyone. Shana Tova. Also to add a bracha and expression of love and support to Anna as she takes on this new chapter. We are all with you and excited for the journey ahead. I must say that I had the longest Yom Kippur, I think, of recorded history. It was a full day and a half. Why? Because at noontime in New York, I began Yom Kippur with our colleagues in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv to literally hear Kol Nidrei chanted so magnificently at noon, Erev Yom Kippur, did extend the length of the holy day, but it also extended the meaning and the impact and the power of our being a global reform movement. It's truly extraordinary what we together not only represent, but are shaping. And we all know that in the ancient debate about, is the holiday of Sukkot really a holiday for an agriculturally settled people? Or is it the holiday of desert wanderers, people who are on a journey? And of course, the machloket goes back and forth, and on different years, you can side with different points of view. But I would just celebrate that we are on a journey as a reform movement. And it's a journey of growing strength and of growing impact. And we are literally global in our, not only our presence, but our creativity. I just note that last night I was having dinner with friends in New York City in a sukkah on the streets of New York City. How is that possible? Well, there are literally sukkot all over New York City in the street, because that's where restaurants can actually open. And just give this a tiny bit of thought, that the most safe place for us to be celebrating is outside in a sukkah, right? That's the safest place from COVID-19 and the Delta variant. What a brilliant invention our ancestors created, our way of celebrating safely in a moment of a pandemic, to be outside and to feel the vulnerability of the world as it is. And it's vulnerable to so many of us spread out in some very inhospitable places around the globe. But I hope that as we sit in our Sukkot, whether it's on the streets of New York City or Belarus or Ramat Gan, wherever it is that we sit, we feel a sense of openness, a sense of connection, that we also dream of a time where Yashvu ish tachat gafno b'tachat inato, that one day all of us will sit peacefully and safely and in good health under our vine and our fig tree, and none shall make us afraid. So I would just bring us to the Bracha of Shechianu. It is no small thing, friends, that we have made it through this moment to reach this time together, to feel the strength and the hope and the possibility of our movement and our work, as well as to feel the absolute blessing of still being alive and still being blessed to be part of this community. So I hope you will join me in the Shechianu, a prayer that is meaningful at seasonal festivals, but especially one where we actually have come through seasons of uncertainty. So please join me together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shechianu v'kiyamanu, v'higianu lazman hazeh. Praised are you, eternal our God, who gave us life, sustained us, and somehow miraculously brought us to this season of Zman Simchatenu, this season of our rejoicing. Thank you.
Okay. We're looking for, oh, here they are. Okay. Lana?
Good evening, everyone. As this new year arrived and started, this is also the beginning of Shnat Shemitah. And for Rosh Hashanah, we were looking for a special song for Shnat Shemitah to sing together. And we couldn't find any, actually. So we took some verses from the books of Leviticus and Deuteronomy and one verse from Zechariah and created a new nigun for Shnat Shemitah. מקץ 7 שנים תעשה שמיטה בארץ אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך נחלה. ושבת הארץ שבת לאדוני, שבת לאדוני. ושבת הארץ שבת לאדוני, שבת לאדוני. ובכל ארץ אחוזתכם גאולה תיתנו לארץ. ונתנה הארץ פריה ואכלתם השובע. ושבת הארץ שבת לאדוני, שבת לאדוני. ושבת הארץ שבת לאדוני, שבת לאדוני. פתוח תפתח את ידך, לאחיך לענייך. ברכך אדוני אלוהיך בכל אשר תעשה. ושבת הארץ שבת לאדוני, שבת לאדוני. ושבת הארץ שבת לאדוני, שבת לאדוני. וזכרת כי עבד היית בארץ מצרים, כי גרים ותושבים אתם עמדי. ושבת הארץ שבת לאדוני, שבת לאדוני. ושבת הארץ שבת לאדוני, שבת לאדוני. לא בחיל ולא בכוח כי ברוחי. לא בחיל ולא בכוח כי ברוחי. ושבת הארץ שבת לאדוני,
שבת לאדוני, ושבת הארץ שבת לאדוני, שבת לאדוני.
Thank you, Boaz. Thank you, Rabbi Oded Mazor. I think that I imagine that we were the first international audience to hear this brand new, beautiful melody. Thank you. I'd like to call upon my colleague and friend, Rabbi Mira Regev, who is the director in the Israel Movement for Reform and Progressive Judaism, of everything we do in culture and in content and in our multimedia. She's the brains behind the incredible multimedia work we've done in Israel since the outset of COVID. Mira will do a very short shiur lesson about Shanat Shemitah, and after that we'll be breaking up into groups with facilitators in different rooms. So Mira, please.
Thank you, David. I'm honored. And thank you, Oded and Boaz.
Mira, you're muted.
I am unmuted, sorry. So I want to thank David and Boaz and Oded for this beautiful nigun who leads us into Shnat Shemitah. And I want to start with this very famous midrash that from Sifrei on Parashat Bahar. What does Shemitah, the sabbatical year, have to do with Mount Sinai? And this is because this is how the Parasha of Bahar Leviticus 25 starts, but it became a phrase in Israel when you want to ask Ma Kesher in Hebrew, like, what are we talking about? Why are we even talking about Shemitah or everything? And what does it has to do with Sinai, but also what it has to do with life? Like what the meaning of it all? And it's a good, very, very good question when you think about Shemitah and land, and we're not agricultures, and we actually, is it really meaningful for us in the 21st century on 2021? And in many ways, we can say that we don't want to think about Shemitah as meaningful because it's so scary. It's scary of letting go. But after these 2 amazing years that were so challenging of the coronavirus, and here in Israel, just yesterday, I went to a spring in the mountains of Jerusalem, and it was all burned. And it was so hard to see it. And it's hard not to think about climate change and about this kind of letting go, that we just need to let go of safetyness and to let go of everything that we actually thought that we know, even if, like, when are we going to be home and when we are going to be able to get out? Maybe we'll not be able to sit in the Sukkah tomorrow with a friend, like my brother said to me that, yes, he's sorry he won't be able to come tomorrow because he's going to be isolated because of the coronavirus. So there is a lot of unknownness. And so this practice in Shemitah this year is really, really strong. And I want to show you, I want to introduce a very interesting Mekubal. Elena, can you go ahead to go to the last, I think, to the last. Yes, can you see? Isn't it too small? So there is a very interesting Mekubal from the 15th century, Akedat Yitzchak, who was both a philosopher and a Mekubal. And I know, David, it's only 5 minutes, so it's less, but we're not going to read all of it. But he was really talking about what are we really doing in Shemitah when we're not in Israel. And most of the people here are not in Israel, and we are not agricultures. And it's very far away from our world. What do we really have to take from it? And this is what he said, and I'll read only one verse from what he said. He said something like, he said that The way I see it, the expansive attention given by the Torah to instruct and inspire us regarding the release of the land, it's actually to speak to our souls. Its intent it's open our ear and awaken our heart, to open our blind eyes, mirrored by into fantasies of this world, its deceptions and vanities. We were not sent to this world to be servants, but for different purpose, more glorious and wondrous. Our work of the land should be lonely to be derived, sustains and supports our, it's only here to serve a divine purpose. And his beautiful, I think, words really after, Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah tells us that this Shemitah that we are being commanded is not something from outside that, like a coronavirus, that we are being forced to let go. This is something more about an inner intention of time to think about what is the purpose of being on the land and what is the purpose of the land, and to find the inner purpose, the divine purpose of it. It's actually an amazing opportunity. And to think about, letting go, we can say, oh, we just need to let go, or really take it as a practice of thinking of what is really important to us, what is a divine purpose. And we are a religious movement, so we can actually, we have a role here in this really special times of Israel, of the world, to help people to think about what is really important of them in this year. After a lot of things that have been changed, what do they want to let go of, and what do they want to hold? What is the real purpose of their life? I actually really so happy to have a whole year of a Shabbat time, even though I'm going to work really hard of teaching people about Shemitah. But inside of me, I'm going to hold this place of really remembering how important it is to have this Shabbat time of thinking of really what is important and what is the divine purpose of our life here. So I bless us all in a very meaningful and life-changing Shemitah year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Mira. I would like to take this opportunity to invite everyone to a small discussion. We're going to take about 10 minutes, and it will give us an opportunity to think a little bit what the Shemitah means for each and every one of us. And for that, we're going to have 6 outstanding rabbis from the Israel Reform Movement leading the discussion rooms. We have Rabbi Ada Zavido from the Harel congregation, Rabbi Alona Nir Karen from Mevaseret Zion congregation, Rabbi Noah Mazor from Yohel congregation, Rabbi Dana Sharon from Keilat Yuvel Bagadera, Rabbi Orit Rosenblit, a regional rabbi in the Kiryat Shmona area, and student rabbi Sivan Navon, and myself. So when you will receive a notification to go to a certain room, please do that. And we'll be back here all together in about 10 minutes. Have a meaningful time.
Hello, hello, everybody. עודד, אתה איתי?
Okay, we are with you, Rabbi Ada Zavidov.
Wonderful. So good evening, Chag Sameach, everybody. It's a great pleasure and honor to be here and to lead in 10 minutes something like a conversation about Shemitah, a huge, huge subject. and can be very meaningful in our personal life. So because we really have such a short time, I would like to ask you shortly, what is Shemitah for you? What can you think about? Maybe in one word or maybe two. And just to say that the word Shemitah in Hebrew is also a verb, lishmot. I mean, there is the Shemitah, right? Every 7 years, but also I can lishmot, to get rid of, just to let go. So when we think about the things that we want to lishmot, it's kind of a words game in words. What are you thinking about? Can you tell us, can you share with us, let's say, one thing that you would want and you will be happy, lishmot, in this new year, Hebrew year, that we are all just began. So who will be brave to start, like Nachshon, that jumped to the sea when we fled from Egypt? Who is going to be our Nachshon and tell us one thing that you wish to get rid of, like Shemitah, to fulfill the mitzvah, the commandment of mitzvah. I see the face of Neil here, and I see Noga from Israel. Hi, Noga. And Barbara is here also. So you can just, even with a camera that is not open, you can just speak if you want.
So the question is, what things will we want to get rid of in the coming year?
Absolutely, because this is actually Shemitah. In the sabbatical year, we just don't do. We don't work the field. We just leave it as it is. Whoop. So it's great because now there is food for everybody. Everybody can go to the field in the sabbatical year and eat from it. The poor, the rich, everybody. And we should think that the land is not ours. It's God's. In the sabbatical year, this idea is very strong. So we cannot possess everything. There are things that we should just let go for our benefit, for our well-being. That's the idea of Shemitah spiritually. So if you want to share with us, Neil, like Nachshon, we will call you Nachshon.
Ani Rav, but Texas.
My colleague. Okay.
I didn't put it on there. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know if I have anything. I guess, because Shemitah year doesn't hit me the way that it should. I guess I've always appreciated the idea of letting 1/7 of the land, so instead of taking a year of letting go, I just slow down, I guess, over the course of 7 years. So 1/7 of me is empty per year. I know that sounds weird. I don't know. I'm not really sure how we are going to incorporate Shemitah. I wish I had a better answer.
Mm-hmm. No, you gave us a very good answer. And in Israel, we call it a sabbatical year. We give in the law, in the state of Israel, each 7th year for teachers, for example, they have also asked the rabbis, the congregational rabbis in Israel, we can go to a sabbatical year. And I think it's also in the CCAR that we just after several years, we must rest. We cannot, all our lives run from one assignment to another. We must rest like the land. We must do Shemitah as human beings as well. So to stop running, and I think COVID-19 really taught us this idea. The whole world is now okay, we stopped. I see now Ellie. Hi, Ellie. Would you like to share with us your idea? How would you like to fulfill the mitzvah of Shemitah?
Well, my yard is resting this year. I'm giving all the gardens, the planting around my house, a chance to rest, but I'm entranced by the fact that I practiced pediatrics from 1968 until 2004 and never had sabbatical time.
Wow.
Never had a long time off. And I'm thinking that it would have been so nice to have had some extended period of self-renewal that was longer than 2.5 weeks or 3 weeks. Wow, I'm jealous.
I saw a cat in your room, so we should, I am a cat lover. I have also a cat in my home. So we should just learn from the cats. They have sabbatical every day. They have Shemitah every day. They know to take off and to say, leave us alone. We are going to sleep 20 hours a day. So they exaggerate, of course, but they know they know to rest, they know to pause. Sabbatical Shemitah means to pause, actually. And now I see, thank you so much. I see Catherine, hi, from London.
Hi.
Hello, hello to you. Regards to London.
Good evening. Hi, Ellie. Something that last year taught me to do, because I worked through lockdown. I was working at a special needs college, but what it did teach me to do was to take time for myself, and I'm not good at sitting still. I'm watching something on television, I'm doing something else at the same time. I'm either preparing something for shul, or I'm preparing something for work, for workshops, whatever. This past year I made myself sit for 5 minutes and do nothing. And I got it up to 3/4 of an hour. And It's been really hard, but I want to continue doing that because I really have felt the benefit of it. And it's really difficult if you're not used to being able to sit doing nothing, to just sit. So I'd like to be able to carry that forward and expand on that. So It's hard work though. I'm not good at it.
It's a
Doesn't
question
always
of
work.
practicing maybe, but it sounds very, very meaningful, this journey that you had just to, you know, wow.
But there's always too much to do. That's the problem. So when you're chairing shul and you're working, yeah, we are, absolutely. So yeah, that's my bit.
Yeah, I think it's good for the well-being of our body and spirit as well, to learn from the Shemitah that even the land is a living something, you know. So the land, like human beings, needs that pause. And we I know in the intensive life that we all led before the corona, before the COVID-19, we didn't have time to think about it, and we just ran via, you know, cars and airplanes and what, you know, from one state to another, crazy. I think that after the corona, many of us will not want to return to the way we lived before, because it was much too much, without any Shemitah at all, not after 7 years and not after 14 years, just, you know, constant running. I know from my life as a full-time congregational rabbi, which means actually to work 24/7, or as I want to say, 25/8, you know. And when we had the lockdown, everybody at home sweet home. So we took kind of a sabbatical. And now I see Noga. Hi, Noga from Israel. Would you like to also to say your very important role in the Israeli movement? And
Okay. I'm sorry, I apologize. My internet is not stable and I wasn't sure if I opened my camera, you can hear me or whatever. Anyway, I'm Noga Moliniak and I'm the current chair of the General Assembly of the IMPJ.
Would you like in one moment, because they are going to close the room in one moment, to say what is Shemitah for you? You are as an Israeli with the land here in Israel.
For me, Shemitah, it's just a tradition that it's not so significant for me. I mean, what's significant for me is the idea that people were talking about it, the idea that Judaism has always had respect for the nature, for the environment. It's not a modern issue like today, but there was always environmental issues and concerns in the Jewish tradition. So that's the important thing, but not the Shemitah itself. I think it's not relevant anymore because, you know, it's not like the agricultural cycle of trees, of crops, of everything. It's not like it used to be in the ancient world. So it's just the idea that we care about the nature, we care about the environment.
Which are two very important ideas. Thank you, Noga. I want to bless all of you with Chag Sameach from Jerusalem, from Israel. Be well and don't forget lishmot from time to time things. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rabbi Ada.
We're waiting for everyone to get back in. We've closed all the rooms. And hopefully it looks like people are coming back. Benji, we would be happy to hear you sing right now.
Oh. Thank you. It was a bit unexpected. Elevamcha siniya shochena liya Elevamcha siniya shochena liya Meva goele am shifteya Meva goele am shifteya Goele am shifteya Goele am shifteya El nisava Ave Mame Vionu Bene חזק ויאסף לבית יוסף, חזק ויאסף לבית יוסף, ירבו ויפרוק גפן פוריה, ירבו ויפרוק גפן פוריה, גפן פוריה, גפן פוריה. אמץ בן דוד וישפוט תמיד, אמץ בן דוד וישפוט תמיד, כל צרתה שמיר גריש מאיריה, כל צרתה שמיר גריש מאיריה, גריש מאיריה, גריש מאיריה. אל רמך סיניה שוכנה ליה, אל רמך סיניה שוכנה ליה, מהרה גואל ים שבטיה, מהרה גואל ים שבטיה, גואל ים שבטיה, גואל ים שבטיה.
Thank you, Benny. And now it's really a pleasure to introduce our good friend, Rabbi Joshua Weinberg, Vice President of the URJ, President of ARTSA, the Association of Reform Zionists of America. Josh.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Anna and Benny. Wonderful to be with all of you, and Chag Sameach and Moadim Simcha. It was, of course, the famous Rabbi Rav Kook, Avraham Yitzchak Cohen Kook, who said that Yashan Yitkadesh v'Chadash Yitkadesh, that the old will be renewed and that new thing will now be holy or be sanctified. And the Zionist story is all about doing just that. And the Shemitah year is such a perfect example of how we can take this ancient tradition and apply it in a new, practical, modern context where everyone who's living in Israel and really all of us living around the world can take from this ancient practice and realizing that as holiness goes to people, that the land also needs to rest. And it also needs to renew itself and rejuvenate and re-energize, that we can take this as an example. And as religious Zionists, we hope that this year will renew our sense of connection to the earth, and not to the entire earth, in a message of stewardship and in our ability to care for the world that we live in, but specifically also to Haaretz, to the land of Israel. And let's recognize and express our gratitude for our abundance and for everything that we have together, and make sure that we don't take that for granted. And let's also use this opportunity to mend our relationships and our obligations, to release all from bondage and release all of those who are somehow in debt or in slavery, and to renew our connection with one another. So we'll end with a bracha. And if you put the slide up there, I want to just some practical things that I think we should all to do. First of all, let's take our lesson from our good friend Yosef Abramowitz, who's with us, and put solar panels on all your buildings. Check out Yachdav, the program, and learn an environmental curriculum between the IMPJ and your school at home. And learn about creative ecology from our friends at Kibbutz Lotan. Even join our Zionist Beit Midrash here in North America that's going to be dedicated to eco-Zionism and the Shemitah year. And most important, may this year be the year that after so many people canceled their trips or postponed their trips, that we can all actually be in person in the land of Israel together, and that you can go physically to be there. And I want to end with this one line from my friend Rabbi David Seidenberg, that you can add now to your Birkot HaMazon at the end of your meal while sitting in the Sukkah. It says, Harachaman hu yeshiv libenu el haaretz leman neshev yachad ima b'shavta kol shnat hashmita. May the Merciful One turn our hearts toward the land so that we may dwell together with her in her Shabbat and the whole year of Shemitah. Amen.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Rabbi Weinberg. It's my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce our seventh and final Ushpizin of our program tonight, the chair of the executive board of the IMPJ, Yair Lutstein.
Hi, friends. I'm not going to give you words of wisdom, but I'm rather going to give you just a few words of thanks to everyone who arrived and joined us for this wonderful evening. It's wonderful seeing so many good friends, and we all look forward to the opportunity to meet in person again. I want to take the opportunity to thank everyone who organized this evening, and I have to mention a couple of people, so you'll bear with me. Gal Moyal, who is in charge of our Zoom controls. They're behind the scenes, but Leo and Andy from Shock Audio in London, who have been incredible in doing a lot of the work in the audio. And we thank our friends at Artsenu who always connect us with Andy and Leo. Lana Zilberman Solway, who produced this evening's program. Toda, Lana. To David, who has been behind the scenes and been very, very central in putting this evening together. To Boaz and Benny for the music, for Mira for her limud, for all of the rabbi facilitators of our conversations. It's been meaningful. It's wonderful always to be able to have conversations within a small group of people. I'll just end by saying that these are exciting times for us. You know, changes and transitions can be frightening, but they're also a time of wonderful potential. And we're thrilled to have, as Gilad said at the beginning of the evening, two wonderful women leaders who are now at the helm of our movement. And it's a wonderful thing. I think it's the first time that our reform movement, I know it has had a woman standing at the helm. We're very excited about that. Orly at the helm of Iraq, along with Anat, who's with us, and we are very optimistic. Today, I can report to you that some of us met with Foreign Minister Yair Lapid and his deputy in the Sukkah at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And they were both very excited to see us there and to talk to us about the fact that we, the reform movement in Israel, besides what we do here in Israel, are also a bridge to you, to the liberal Jewish community around the world, and the opportunity to be able to engage with those communities around the world, knowing that and it was interesting to hear both of them say it's okay to sometimes criticize the state of Israel out of love, the government of Israel. It's okay because we all know that it's being done for love. At the same time, to continue the dialogue, not to disengage, understanding that it's through you folks that the government and the state of Israel will be able to engage with the Jewish communities abroad. That was a very potent and important message that I took away from that meeting. That the reform movement and other liberal movements here in Israel are a bridge to the diaspora, to the people living abroad. And last but not least, we talked about seeing each other. We are keeping our fingers crossed. Write the dates down. The 17th and 18th of June next year, we are going to have our Vida, and you will get to save the date within the coming month. We're very excited about it. We're looking forward to having many people come in from abroad, and it's going to be a very, very, as always, a very authentic Israeli reform celebration. We all need that celebration after these years of isolation and quarantine, etc. We're hoping that in the 9 months till then, we are able to have that celebration together. As Chaverim, Chag Sukkot Sameach, Moadim L'Simcha, and once again, Shana Tova to all of us. May this be a year of health, prosperity, of peace, and of continued friendship and partnership. Toda rabba, Chaverim, for joining us here this evening.
Toda rabba, Yair.
Thank you so much, Yair. You already said all the things, so I'm joining. Toda rabba, Shana Tova, Chag Sameach, Briut, Besorot Tovot. Thank you all for leading, blessing, participating, and Benny will lead us away with a festive Sukkot song. תודה רבה לכולם.
שלומי בונה סוכה, מואהבת וירוקה, על כן היא הסוכה היום. ואיזו סתם סוכה מואהבת וירוקה, שלומית בונה סוכה שלום. היא לא תשכח לשים הדסים, ענב של הרבה ירוק, לימון בתוך חלב וכל פירות הסתיו, עם ריח בוסתנים רחוק. וכששלומית תאמר רבית וזה נגמר, יקרה דבר נפלא פתאום. יבואו השכנים כולם בהמונים, ולכולם יהיה מקום. ואז מתוך הסכר יציץ לו ויזרק כוכב בעיר כיהלום. שלום סוכת פלאים, מה טוב ומה נעים, שלומי בונה סוכת שלום. שלום סוכת פלאים, מה טוב ומה נעים, שלומי בונה סוכת שלום.